It is Thursday, so that means it's time for the COVID-19 edition of Abuzz. And this is where we dive into the issues that sort of we're all in the news, all over the news this week. And to do that, I'm joined by David Tizzard. Good morning, David.
Good morning, and good morning, listeners.
Yes, a lot has happened over the past couple of days, or maybe even the past couple of hours. It seems like the past 24 hours has been full of news. I guess we have to start with the hotspot, and that would be Bucheon, Gyeonggi province, where in particular a logistics center there.
A logistics center. And it's really interesting to see that these hotspots, just this word that you mentioned, they can be anywhere. They can be sort of in places of religious worship. They can be places of night entertainment. And now it's in a logistics center. So this is from the e-commerce platform giant Coupang. And here in Bucheon, they've got about 40 cases linked to this one center. They're looking at testing.
I believe actually the number of cases has gone up.
It's gone up now? Okay.
I think as of this morning, we have at least 68.
68?
Yeah, those numbers are coming fast and furious.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, actually, it's probably good that they are finding more. Of course, we don't want anybody to be infected, but they were looking at testing about 3,600 employees. So the more testing that they do, that is good, I would say.
Yeah, like you mentioned, though, the religious facilities or the entertainment places in Itaewon and this logistics center, they do have a similar point or similar quality that they are indoors.
Yes.
They're crowded with lots of people.
Yes.
I'm not sure about the ventilation. I imagine it's pretty bad. And they are not able to maintain that sort of physical distancing that has been recommended of 1 to 2 meters. So in that respect, they do share similarities. And that's where we're seeing the huge cluster infections.
We need to be inside. A lot of the country's business and a lot of the things we do are inside. So it's very hard to get away from that. But once inside, it's really important to maintain these measures. And that was something that they're looking at Coupang, whether these measures were enforced. What is going to happen is that the mayor of Bucheon, Jang Dok-cheon, he announced yesterday that the city of Bucheon is going to be returning to stricter social distancing measures. So you've got the Gosam, the third-year high school students, they're going back, but all other school openings are going to be delayed again. And health facilities, so you mentioned about these indoor things, health facilities, gyms, saunas, jjimjilbangs, all these things, they're put on pause until June 2nd. And there's also a new testing facility, which has been set up at the Bucheon Jonghap Undongjang.
Right. I heard an interview with the mayor yesterday. He sounded very down, understandably, and he was also urging parents of younger children who have been sending them to daycare centers to try to keep them at home also. So it's not just the high school seniors. And also because it's a huge number that have to be tested, he's urging everyone to please come forward and get tested as soon as possible, because the high number of cases that have been already discovered at Coupang suggests that the infection has been around for a while. It's just now that we're discovering it. So they need to try to catch the infection and find out how many people are infected as soon as possible.
It's very interesting, I believe, to see the reactions to this. So you said, looking at the mayor of Bucheon, Jang Dok-cheon, that he will the mayor will no doubt feel a sense of responsibility. So at the national level, when you talk about the excellent response from the South Korean government and the administration at the moment, then they receive the plaudits. But if there's one area or one region in the country that sort of has an outbreak, has a hotspot, then the administrators or the government officials in that area will then feel the responsibility. So I think we've got to be careful on how we deal with that.
Exactly. And he now has the sort of not the reputation, but he has become the first sort of mayor or municipality to revert back to stricter social distancing measures. Health authorities had warned we could go back anytime when there is a cluster infection or a major spike. And he has taken this preventative measure, hopefully, so to contain the outbreak further. So we have to applaud, I think, his also courage as well. Of course, this is a hard decision, but it was made after he did consult with all the health authorities as well.
That's the most important thing with the experts. And I believe as well that the country and the citizens, they take collective praise when it is due, and it has been due in a lot, and also collective responsibility. And that it goes both ways, because this last one, they're tracing it back to a first birthday party, which is a doljanti here in Korea. So it's interesting that we might be very upset, frustrated by people perhaps going clubbing during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Do we have the same thoughts about those attending first birthday parties? How do we draw the line, or are they the same thing?
Right. First birthday parties are very important, and a lot of people had sort of delayed all these major celebrations.
That's
I
correct.
think until they thought that the circumstances and the situation was under control.
Yes.
About the time when we went back to, or we transitioned to everyday life quarantine. But yeah, and then also Coupang. I don't know if you ever used their service. If you
My wife uses it very regularly.
Exactly. I don't know anyone who really hasn't at least once. So they are very popular. And apparently it's that popularity that almost led to the sort of kind of, I guess, risky circumstances where you have a lot of sort of daily workers, they're not regular workers, but they're brought in to deal with the extra orders. They're working in cramped conditions. They
Yes.
have a lot of work to do, and it becomes hot. So they bring down their masks and they're exposed to the virus. But now people are worried about whether it's safe to receive those deliveries.
This is a really good point. And we think that there's been a huge surge in online shopping, and people are doing this. They're staying at home more and buying things. And we think online shopping is safe. But when we broaden our perspective and think about the logistics of what happens, people have to process these orders. They have to be placed in boxes in delivery centers. Then they have to be put in lorries and delivered here. People are working to fulfill our online shopping needs, which are growing and growing. So I think it's important, just when we are online shopping, that we recognize that people do still have to do this work. It doesn't just come magically out of the sky on a drone.
Right.
Perhaps that might be the future.
And I know there are a lot of listeners who are fearful now of these online shopping. They're wondering
Yes.
whether they have to go back to offline shopping.
Yeah.
But all the information that we do know about the coronavirus, and that includes cases from around the world, say that the risk of getting infection from these delivery is very minuscule.
Yes.
There have not been even one case, I think, reported worldwide of an infection via delivery. They say maximum under the optimum conditions,
Yep.
it'll survive on the cardboard for about 24 hours, but in most cases, it'll be dissipated within a couple of hours. And they do disinfect the packages, I
That's
understand.
correct. And I've seen reports from around the world where some food delivery drivers will give a receipt that has the delivery driver's temperature on it and the cook's temperature. So there are different measures being taken. So as we do more online shopping, and that's good for the economy
Exactly.
in a way, and we need that to generate more jobs, but we have to recognize that people still have to work to make this happen.
And it seems like it's a good wake-up call once again, because these online shopping sites and deliveries, I don't think are going to go down anytime soon. So
They're only going to grow. I think.
exactly. So hopefully this will serve as a wake-up call for these companies to, enforce these guidelines on a more stricter basis and abide by them, because this is what happens when you don't abide by them.
I think that's a very positive way of looking at it, that yes, there has been this hotspot, but now we're realizing, because it's all a learning process for the country, for everybody, that this can happen, and we have to not dwell on it, but what can we learn from it, and what
Right.
can the country and these companies do going forward?
All right. Speaking of 돌잔치, or the
Yes.
baby's first birthday, babies is not a word that we have talked about a lot regarding the coronavirus pandemic.
Right.
But initially, I think, especially overseas as well, when there was this lockdown and people had to spend a lot of time indoors, there was some talk and maybe media reports that this could lead to a corona baby boom.
Yes, there were lots of neologisms and words being put out there that this might happen because people would spend more time indoors and this would lead to more family time. Also, it came from the WHO, the World Health Organization, back in March, looked at what happened after World War II, and they said there was a baby boom after World War II, so perhaps we're going to see one after COVID-19. And that would have perhaps been good news for South Korea
Yes.
because it suffered from, it has a low fertility rate. Whether that is a very
low. The
Yes.
lowest, I think, I believe, among OECD countries, no?
Yeah, it's dropped down to about 0.7, 0.8. I've seen it in those. Whether it's a problem, whether we should be labeling it a problem, is a different thing, because it does also mean a rise in female education, female career, and people pursuing their own path. So how we label and talk about that is a different thing. But on a social level, this is not, the experts are saying this is not going to go. This baby boom that was predicted by the WHO, coming back to that, they have said that because of the suffering economy,
right,
because of people's fear about the environment. We look around us and we see maybe the air quality is not good, the health system is, or people's health is at risk. And so they're predicting that it's only actually going to keep decreasing.
So we don't have any figures, I guess, right now on whether that corona baby boom will actually materialize or not. There was a sort of I guess it's kind of a joke going around, but that if there is a baby boom, it will only be for the first babies. It won't be the second or third children that are resulting of this baby boom.
Yes.
Because, as you mentioned, a lot of those factors that you mentioned, the economic uncertainties, the health uncertainties as well. I guess environmental is another one as well. It's just, I guess, kind of dampening everyone's mood. Yeah.
Also, the WHO based their predictions on after World War II. Think how much the world has changed since then in terms of general knowledge, education, the rise in contraception from the 1960s that gives us greater biological control. So it's a completely different world. So I think the WHO was perhaps being a little bit optimistic without... when you compare 1950 to 2020,
Exactly.
it's a very different social environment. I did find it interesting looking online at some of the comments to this report because this was reported in Yonhap News this week. And some of the Korean comments online were saying, it's hard to earn $300 a month. 30만 won. Why would I have a baby if that's what I earn? Another one said, we've seen news about a chicken frying robot, a coffee making robot, and a food serving robot. This is our future. And finally, the last one said, if you give newly married couples a proper financial incentive, the birth rate will rise. If you give me 2,700,000 won, so it's 270만 won per month, I'll get married soon.
I wonder how this person came up with the 270만 원, the 2.7 million one. That seems
very specific.
Very
It's not
specific.
arbitrary. Maybe they've been looking at their budget and their housing things, and they think, well, that's what we need.
Well, we've seen how the Emergency Disaster Fund has kind of boosted consumption. So
Yes,
maybe
that's correct.
this person raises a valid point. Now, we have a couple of minutes left, and we wanted to talk about this tourism incentive. I know a lot of people, including myself, can't wait to go back on trips, but overseas travel, I think, is still kind of off the possibilities for the time
Correct.
being. So the focus is on domestic tourism, and the government has come up with a way, hopefully, that it'll kind of boost domestic tourism.
So the government is doing a lot. And yes, there's going to be now a focus because it's so hard to leave the country. It's hard to get out. There have been lots of talk in the press this week about visa regulations for foreign residents here, which is going to become a big topic soon. But the government is trying to do stuff. So amusement parks from July, they're going to have 60% discounts. Healing tourist spots, they're going to have discounts. And paying for domestic accommodation, if you go over a certain limit, say of 70,000 won, 7만 won, then you can also receive discounts on these. The Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism, Park Yang-woo, said people who are tired of corona, need rest and recharge, and special measures are needed to save the tourism industry, which is in crisis.
Of course.
And we want to make their travel safe. So what's going to happen is, and this was reported in 중앙일보, is that there is going to be a tourist gift certificate of 50,000 won, Oman won, that certain people can receive and use that for domestic travel.
Certain people, 120,000 people actually will be selected apparently. I guess people who have actually paid for accommodation or who have already done so, they
Yes.
can receive this. I don't know the exact criteria for that.
A first come, first served
First
basis
come?
is one of the expressions being used for
All
this.
right. So some tourism to help the industry and also get some much needed rest and relaxation and also maybe some sort of healing as well, get away from just all this worrying all the time. Daniel C., our regular listener, also raises an important point that maybe we should cover in our future show. We should pay more attention to laborers who are working under bad surroundings. This could be Korean laborers, daily workers like who work at those logistics center, maybe even migrant laborers as well, because we saw a spike there in Singapore as well.
I think that's very important. There's been lots of talk in the press recently about issues of 갑질 or abuse and 감정 노동, sort of emotional labor. These are coming up. So we do need to pay attention to everybody in society and not just focus on our own lives.
Absolutely. This is the time to, I think, take a closer look at our neighbors, not only just our friends and acquaintances and family as well. Thank you very much for sharing those very relevant and timely topics.
You're welcome.
I certainly hope that there will be a baby boom, and maybe that can kind of go in hand with the domestic tourism boom as well. You know?
Let's hope so. I mean, I would quite like a few more babies myself.
There you go, David.
Maybe we'll
There's
do
the
what we
challenge
can for the country, and then we'll go traveling as well to help the tourist industry. We'll do what we can in our house.
All right. Thank you very much, David Tizzard. I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.